Let's talk about what's been going on in the Middle East, though. We had a number of developments, particularly the release of 2 hostages by Hamas terrorists. And we saw the extraordinary footage of these 2 very elderly Israeli ladies in bad health, being told they've been freed on humanitarian grounds. They followed 2 other hostages, a mother and a daughter, both being released a few days ago. Of course, still got some 220 or hostages held by the Hamas terrorists. We're told it was for humanitarian reasons, but realistically, an organisation, a terrorist group that went in to Israel, the evidence we have seen now of the horrific brutality of their crimes against innocent civilians, mums, dads, elderly, grandparents, babies, children, absolutely horrific. Can we say this is a humanitarian act, or is this a cynical act by Hamas to try and somehow stave off that ground invasion by the Israeli Defense Forces?
Julia, I think you're right. I mean, this strikes, it's great that these 4 elderly people are now released. I mean, crikey, they should never have been taken hostages in the first place. But it very much smacks of propaganda by Hamas and, trying to delay that invasion. If Hamas released 2 people every day, we're still going to be talking for the next 4 months about this. And it's pretty unlikely that they're going to release vast amounts of people because, they're holding them in these tunnels, which these ladies have described a sort of spider's web, massive amounts of tunnels and under Gaza where they're being stored. So, yeah, I'm afraid it's propaganda. And a lot of us probably thought that the ground invasion would have happened by now, but there are so many other competing issues here, keeping Hezbollah out of the fight in the north, keeping the Iranians out, keeping the Syrians out, and all the while trying to make sure that there are minimum civilian casualties. So, yeah, it's great that we've got 4 people out, but really, I don't think this moves the dial in any demonstrative way.
The Israeli government has said they need to release all the hostages, as indeed Western governments have called for that as well. Emmanuel Macron visiting the region. Of course, they're French, they're American, British, French nationals, Thai nationals, and many others as well, many with dual passports who are being held. Hamas have basically said if you end the airstrikes, and stop the cutting off of food and water and electricity and other fuel, then we'll consider releasing the hostages. But of course, the only reason why those things have happened, have been done by Israel, is because of the massacre and the taking of hostages. It is an extraordinary situation where there are people, even in this country, who are critical of Israel, do you not think, for cutting off supplies to Gaza, when we know that Hamas use those supplies. They have plenty of fuel themselves, plenty of food and water themselves. They have been hoarding it. They knew exactly what the outcome would be of the massacre they'd been planning for many, many months on October the 7th. The criticism is of Israel rather than Hamas for bringing this on the people of Gaza. Do you think that those people are wrong to criticise Israel, or right to criticise Israel in this circumstance?
No, I think they're absolutely wrong. A lot of these people are what I'd call armchair commentators. Yeah, I was with the Peshmerga for 2 years in the fight against ISIS in northern Iraq. I've seen these terrorists absolutely at close hand. They have no limits to the evil that they're prepared to mete out here. We now know for certain that they beheaded 40 babies. So anybody in this country who is supporting them and calling Israel to book here, quite frankly, I really don't know what their motivation is. But the whole event was started by the invasion on the 7th of October. Israel's stated aim is to recover their hostages, and one can absolutely see that, and also to neutralize the 30,000 or so Hamas fighters. Now, with that done, there is a chance that the majority of Palestinians, the 2.2 million in Gaza, those on the West Bank, then can look at some sort of peace and some 2-state solution. It is Hamas that have brought this terror. It is Hamas that is creating the problems at the moment. So if, as everybody says, the Palestinians don't support them, if everybody, everybody with the right morals in the world realizes that it's these terrorists who need to be neutralized, then Israeli needs our full support and to get on with it as quickly as possible so that we can come to some resolution. I'm absolutely staggered that anybody in this country supports Hamas, who are terrorists who have absolutely no concern for collateral damage or civilian casualties.
Well, indeed,
quite frankly,
keeping people in Gaza City we know many people have been able to flee, but keeping other people there, persuading people to stay, the propaganda that goes on in the schools. I mean, half the population of Gaza is under 18. They've been completely, they weren't even born the last time there was an election, 2006, when Hamas was actually elected. No election since then. What do you make specifically of the videos that we know that journalists have seen, independent journalists being able to be seen, Israeli Defense Force showing body cam image, CCTV footage, security camera footage, and the like, of these terror attacks on October the 7th. And people sort of saying, oh, was it 40 babies who were beheaded, or was it fewer than that? It's kind of irrelevant when you talk about, a fighter throwing a grenade at a father and his sons. Some of the scenes, we're told, a pregnant woman, her baby ripped out of her body. Just some of the sights being absolutely gruesome. People, parents clearly tortured in front of their children, also tortured, eyes removed, things like that. I mean, I'm trying not to be too graphic, but oh my God, people need to know this is the evidence. Now, these independent journalists have seen, numerous of them have seen, anyone was invited, you could see this footage. Hardened war correspondents in tears after watching some of this footage. It is important that people know this truth, though, as much as we can establish it as truth, so that people know what they're dealing with, and that this isn't, as you say, a sort of well, on the one side, well, on the other side.
No, absolutely right. And I've seen some of the footages. And of course, like a lot of other soldiers, and as I said, I've fought against ISIS myself. I know what these terrorists are like. I expect some people are looking at this thinking it's some sort of Hollywood movie that's been made up as propaganda. But it's not. It's absolutely what these people are about. They have absolutely no desire to save human life at all. The videos show quite clearly they're out to kill as many people as possible, and also to capture and terrorize these people. And even the old lady who was released today, apparently she was beaten with a stick when she was first taken. Then they were slightly kinder to her. But these people are absolutely the scum of the earth, and they need to be neutralized as soon as possible.
Just finally, even at the expense of the Palestinian people. Look, you were instrumental in getting, basically sort of bussing out injured children in Syria after they'd been hit by bomb strikes by President Assad. You were getting children out, getting the healthcare to them. You know the impact of war on innocent civilians, particularly children. Is that just as you use that phrase, collateral damage? Is that just a cost that's going to have to be paid?
No, I think not at all. I mean, the 30,000 terrorists who are operating amongst them know what they're doing here. Now, Israel, I'm sure, will do all it can to minimize these sort of casualties. But it's very difficult when these people are hiding amongst them. It is probably why the ground offensive is being delayed, so that Israel can absolutely work out exactly where people are. And I expect all the hard fighting is going to go on in those tunnels.
Okay.
Now, if Hamas didn't want to create civilian casualties, then they know exactly what to do. But unfortunately, these people are using civilians, children, to shield them. And it's very little that you can do to make absolutely certain that there aren't civilian casualties.
Indeed.
But we must always try and protect the civilians. But when people are trying to throw them in front of bullets, then it's very, very difficult.
Indeed.